Hello friends, welcome to the House of Creativity with me, your art teacher, Miss Osina. I am so excited to see you back here, and actually I know that this is a pre-recorded video, but I hope that you enjoyed your break last week. How was it having a whole entire week off from school? I'm sure it was fantastic. I'm really glad that you're back today, and we are doing a really cool project. Last week we learned about visual texture, and we learned that you can draw texture to make things look like they feel a certain way. This week we're going to be practicing that again. That's right. So we learned last week that visual texture means using our lines, our shapes, and even value, which is lightness and darkness of color, to create something that looks like it feels a certain way. And today we are going to use our lines, we're going to use our shapes, and even our value, and we are going to create visual texture monsters. That's right, friends, visual texture monsters. But first, I want you guys to watch a story that I really enjoy on YouTube called Where the Wild Things Are. And I want you to pay attention to the different monsters in the story. I want you to see, do some monsters look like they feel soft? Do some monsters look like they feel fluffy? Do some monsters look like they feel smooth? Or do some monsters look like they feel hairy or prickly? Remember, when we are talking about visual texture, we are using adjectives, which are descriptive words, words that we use to describe how something might feel. For example, if I have this nice pillow here, I might say that the pillow, because it has these kind of embroideries on it, you would think it would be soft, but notice it's not really smooth. It's kind of bumpy because of the patterns that are etched into it, right? So when we're talking about visual texture, we're talking about how things feel. So before we continue on with our lesson, I want you to take a moment right now, and I want you to go to the YouTube link that I've left under the assignments tab for the story Where the Wild Things Are. And I want you to pay attention to all the monsters. And I want you to see and talk to your parents if you have mom or dad or grandma or grandpa or brother or sister or anyone who's sitting next to you. Talk to them about how you think some of the monsters might feel if you were to touch them, just based off of the way they look. Does it look like they might feel a certain way? So at this moment, go ahead and pause your video and go to the YouTube link that I left underneath assignments for your read aloud story. And I'll be waiting right back here when you get back. Okay, friends, so you just watched a story called Where the Wild Things Are. And what did you think about that story? I know, it's kind of cool, very cool. Did you notice that there were lots of textures kind of going on? Remember, texture means how something feels or how something looks as if it feels, okay? And we used the example of the pillow that I had earlier. This pillow would be considered real texture or tactile texture. Tactile texture means texture that you can really feel. So we know that this kind of feels bumpy based off of the patterns that are there. But then you have a texture called implied texture. Another word for that is visual texture. And this is when artists use the technique of using their lines, their shapes, and their lightness and darkness of color, value, to make something look like it feels a certain way. So you saw lots of examples of visual texture inside of that video Where the Wild Things Are, right? So what kind of textures did you see? Did you see some hairy monsters? Did some look like they might be prickly or spiky? How did the artist draw those monsters to make them look like they felt that way? Can you think about that? Did you know that the artist only used lines and shapes and dark colors and light colors to make it look like those monsters felt a certain way? So certain lines that you might be able to use are short lines, short dashes. So if I want to create, let's say I want to create something that looks kind of hairy. I'm going to do a paper here with different types of ways that you can draw visual texture. Okay, so we'll do hairy, we'll do sharp, we'll do fluffy, we'll do bumpy. We'll start with those 4 for now. And I'm going to take my pencil here. We're going to start with hairy. And remember, we're using lines, shapes, and value, lightness and darkness of color, to create the illusion that something feels a certain way. So if I want to make something look hairy, I can use short dashes. Remember those dashed lines that we learned in the beginning of the school year? I can use short dashed lines to give the idea, to pretend as if I'm making something hairy. And it looks like this. Some could be longer than the others, some could be shorter. If you'll notice, I'm using these short dashed lines. They're not really even, they don't have to be, to kind of make something look like it's hairy. When you are drawing your monster today, if you want your monster to look hairy, this is one way that you can make your monster look hairy, by adding some short dashed lines. And again, they don't have to be the same length. Some could be shorter than the other. Okay, and even add some more little dashes. And I can make something look hairy by using short dash lines. Now, I want to make something look sharp. If you remember the monsters in the story Where the Wild Things Are, you'll notice their claws were sharp and their teeth were sharp too. Some of them even had like these kind of like things at the top of their heads that were looking kind of sharp too. What kind of shape do you think we can use to make something look sharp? When I think of shapes, I think of circles, triangles, rectangles, ovals, squares. What kind of shape out of the ones that I just mentioned do you think would be a good shape to make something look sharp? If you said triangle, you're right. I can take my pencil, and if I want something to look sharp, I can do a triangle. I can either make a triangle or I can make it look even skinnier. I can make a thinner, skinnier triangle. See? Do you notice how my triangle is long and skinny and pointy, pointy, pointy? Long, skinny, and pointy can make something look prickly or sharp. You can also use these kind of little triangular arrow-like lines, and that can make something look spiky or prickly. See? So sharp. Remember, we are learning today how to create visual texture by using lines, shapes, and value. So right now we're working with our lines and our shapes. Now, if I want something to look fluffy, I think of clouds. I think of, what other things are fluffy? Teddy bears are fluffy. What other things do we have that are fluffy? Teddy bears, clouds, lots of soft things. And I like to use what I call a cloud line when I'm trying to draw something that's fluffy. It looks kind of like this. See? Add some more. And I've made something look fluffy with that kind of cloud-like line. Now, bumpy we can do lots of ways. And I like to use ovals or circles. But I don't just use one circle that's one size. I use big circles and little circles, right? And it'll make it look bumpy. If you take big circles and little circles and you put them close together, all in one small spot, it will make something give the illusion or the appearance of being bumpy. So here I am drawing lots of circles, big and little, medium size too. And it gives the illusion of something bumpy. Also, I can use the letter U. And if I draw a small letter U and a small space together, I can also create a bumpy effect in my drawing. Okay? Now there was one more that I wanted to do. I did bumpy. Oh, I wanted to do like a feathery, kind of like hairy, soft kind of a feel. So let's write that down. A feather, soft feather kind of feeling, okay? Kind of texture, okay? And you could do this with the letter U, but not like these short letter U's. A longer letter U, and put them right underneath each other. Now this can give the illusion of feathers, or it can give the illusion of scales on a fish. Now if it's scales on a fish, obviously it wouldn't be soft. It would be, well, depending on which way you rub your hand. But that gives a texture. So my friends, I want you to take a look at this paper. And I'm going to try to include a picture of it inside this video for you. But this paper shows different ways that we can include visual texture on our monsters. Now, today's assignment is super simple and super fun. Just like our story, Where the Wild Things Are, you are going to create your own visual texture monster. I want to see that you know how to draw visual texture by using your lines, your shapes, and even your colors. Now, this example you may use. You may use any of these examples on this paper to add to your monster. Don't forget, if you're thinking, how do I even draw a monster? Well, a monster needs to have a body, it needs to have a head, it needs to have arms, and it needs to have legs and feet, okay? So almost like when you're drawing a person, except they're a monster and they're gonna have visual texture. So you can use any of these examples to add onto your monster. Now in this video, I am going to include a few examples onto this video so that you can look at them and see how some other students have created monsters and used visual texture on the monsters to make them look like they feel a certain way, okay? I'm so excited to see what you come up with, and I want you at any given time that you need to rewind this video, go back and take your time looking at how I created these different visual texture ideas here, okay? You can use any of these, and if you come up with some of your own, definitely use those. For example, here's something. What if we did a bunch of swirls together? A bunch of swirls on your monster's legs could look like they feel, I don't know, what do you think a bunch of swirls would feel? Rough? Might feel rough. See? Bunch of swirls. And also another kind of line that kind of makes things look hairy. I'll put here another hairy line is scribble. Yeah, scribble scrabble. If I take my pencil and I do a bunch of scribble scrabble, kind of makes things look hairy, don't they? Yeah. So again, at any given time, you are free to go back, rewind this video, and look carefully and closely at how I created these different visual texture ideas right here. I want to see your monsters. I want you to add color and value. Remember, value is lightness and darkness of color. So you can take your crayons and you can push down hard to get a dark color, and you can use the same crayon and color softly without putting too much pressure on your hand and get a lighter color. So you can use that as well. And don't forget to look at the examples that I post here in this video of different monsters that have been created by other students so that you can get some cool inspiration and ideas. Well, my friends, that's it for art today. And I'm so excited to see what you create. Go ahead and when you're done, upload your picture to the link that says Visual Texture Monster, and I will be able to look at all your really, really, really cool visual texture monsters. I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.